Hello and welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. As always, it is great to be with you as we journey through the Bible, one verse at a time. Today we continue on in Matthew chapter 2. And today we're going to look at verses 3 and 4. So just as a little background, we've already gone through chapter 1. We've gone through the genealogy, which actually play a pretty important role in today's two verses. In that genealogy, that establishes the Davidic line that Jesus is the rightful king of Israel. So let's go ahead and get to it. Matthew chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, which say, "When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born." So why was Herod frightened? Well, there's a couple reasons why he was frightened. First and foremost, Herod was frightened because he was not a legitimate king of Israel by birth as Jesus was. You see in that genealogy that we read in Matthew 1 through 17, we read specifically that Jesus is in the line of King David. That's very important. This is why Herod was concerned, because the legitimate king of Israel had been born, and this threatened his position, his power, and his wealth. So why was all of Jerusalem concerned with him? Well, it doesn't mean that all the people were concerned, but most likely refers to all the political and religious leaders that Herod installed. And because Herod was not a legitimate king, it would mean that all of their installations were equally invalid under Jewish law. And next we read that he called together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, and he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. Now the scribes and the teachers of the law, these are the Jewish scholars of the day who were trained from the time that they were around 13 years old in teaching and applying the Old Testament law. Most of these guys most likely had most of the Old Testament memorized. Could you imagine that for a moment? Sometimes today we struggle memorizing just a couple verses here and there. They most likely had most of the Old Testament memorized. Just amazing to think about. Just a sidebar with this verse. So they were professionally trained, and Herod wanted to know where the Messiah was to be born. This also brings up another point, because prior to him being appointed as the governor, if you will, of Judea, he professed, this is just a historical thing, it's not in the scriptures or anything. Historically, he converted to Judaism, but he shows a very blatant ignorance of the messianic prophecies, which during this time were being talked about like crazy in the synagogues and everything else. And specifically Micah chapter 5, which specifically says that the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem. So this may be another reason why Herod was frightened, because he didn't know these basic passages. It can show that his conversion was like a ploy for political power to be appointed as governor in Judea. Well, guys, hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Daily Bible Podcast. It was more, I know these couple of verses are more history than anything else, but I still think they help us get a little bit more background on these verses and help them understand them in a little bit deeper way. Well, God bless you guys. Join me tomorrow as we delve into verses 5 and 6 in chapter 2 of Matthew. God bless you guys. Have a great day.